Someone asked me recently what my favorite word was, and I said love. And I realized that love right now might need to be a little bit more fierce, and that gentle, soft love that so many of us are used to might not be working the way that it used to. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how fierce love can actually feel like a safer, more trustworthy love. I am Karena Virginia, and this is the Karena Virginia Podcast. And welcome all of you. I'm sitting in a beautiful park in East Hampton, New York, and I am filming this in a different location because I'm visiting some friends, and my producer had a hard time with the podcast download, which was supposed to be released. So I'm going to do a quick one for all of you now, and please excuse that it is maybe made with some extra sounds and maybe not the clarity that you are used to. But here I am, and here we go. So I myself happen to be a very open-hearted person and have always loved big. Being half Italian and half English, I was always the one in my family that was the most like my father. Really big Italian heart, big Italian love. And I do care a lot about humanity and people, sometimes to a fault, and sometimes to my own detriment. I may abandon myself in order to keep other people safe. And I think many of you can relate to that, as many of the people who are listening are also highly sensitive, porous, maybe a little codependent, maybe in recovery from codependency as well. And that old way where we would love and love big and love tenderly and love with a deep nurturing, it worked. It worked a lot, and it worked beautifully. But times are changing, and we are needing a more solid foundation, and the gentleness and the enabling that soft love can offer is not always the healthy way. So I notice with myself that I have a tendency to want to keep the environments around me very peaceful, and I have a tendency to want to keep people together, and I don't like conflict. And while I've worked on these issues for quite a while, they're showing up for me even more right now. And I think that a lot of our shadows right now are showing up for us to look at, especially right now in the world, because the only way that humanity can heal is when we do our work to heal ourselves first, and then it rushes out collectively. But I honestly used to think that I could just share love and be creating harmony and gentleness and that almost soft love that a mother feels for her babies. And what's interesting is, I've shared this before, when I had a near-death experience and I experienced these amazing angels in heaven, that's how they were. And the love that they shared through their eyes was the love of a mother without fear. And the tenderness and the love without the worry of what if something happens to this person that I love so dearly. Because as angelic beings, there is no need to worry. There is no need for fear. Everything is perfect in the higher heavenly realms. But we live on earth. And so, of course, mothers are going to have fear. And of course, even though, that old saying, fear is false evidence appearing real, right? We all said that. In this new time, maybe fear for humans is needed. Maybe it's a protective emotion that prevents danger. What we don't need is worry. Worry or anxiety, the emotions that contribute to a false fear, they're very different. But coming back to the almost opposite emotion of fear, because the true opposite emotion is shame, but the almost opposite emotion of fear is love. And love, yes, patient, kind, nurturing, non-jealous, non-harming, all of those things, right? But what if the patience and the non-harming and the gentleness and the embrace of that motherly love has some strong boundaries? And not only internal boundaries for ourselves, but also boundaries so that we are able to keep those around us safe. And just like Mother Nature, she will take and she will take and she will take and she will take until she says no more, and there's a storm and there's a disruption and things are catastrophic and they shake, but then there's a rainbow. Sometimes that shake-up is necessary in life, and I don't mean anything horrific, and would never say that anything tragic that I can ever find sense in any of that. But what I do mean is that sometimes a little shake-up offers us an opportunity to heal a part of ourselves, and sometimes a little shake-up offers us an opportunity to look at parts of ourselves that might need a little bit of healing. And I'm recognizing that sometimes what I needed from my mom was for my mom, who I adore, for my mom to show up for me in a way that was disruptive, in a way that was calling out someone, and in a way that was not so enabling to a teacher or to a system or to an environment, even my church environment. And what I realize now is that I have inherited that, and I'm sure generationally as well as from my experiences. And by wanting to keep the peace, I think there have been parts of me that have not showed up with that fierce love that has been stern and has said no. And again, not only for myself, but for those that I am in relationship with, for my family, for my friends, even for yoga students. Sometimes I think that love needs to be a little bit disruptive right now and not so gentle. And I think the universe is showing us this. And I know that I am looking at this within myself and looking at where peace can come from using our voices when needed and calling out when there is injustice, and not being afraid of what happens when we're not pleasing our environment, because we cannot please everyone at the same time. And we can't please anyone if we are not doing our own inner work to look at where we are not pleasing ourselves and to love from a place of that clarity. So that is my message for this podcast. And I'm doing this work on myself, and I'm offering it to you as well. Where does love need to be stronger, fiercer? And possibly for some, where can love be a little bit kinder and more accepting and more forgiving? There are extremes, and we are in a time in the world where we need a recalibration, and we need to find that middle ground somewhere. Not meaning that we meet in the middle necessarily, but that we come in a little bit. So if we are completely codependent and working through that and recovering from being the people pleaser, or if we are a little bit more self-absorbed and playing the victim all the time and everybody else is wrong, where are we the common denominator in playing victim? And where are we the common denominator in there being nothing wrong with anything that's going on because it's all just bypassed spiritually, even when there is something wrong? So where do we come in a bit on either side? And where can we see the other as a mirror to ourselves? Because ultimately, we do have all of these different spectrums within ourselves, even though they're, 90% more on one side, or maybe even 95% more on one side and 95% more on the other side. Where can we pause instead of reacting, instead of defending ourselves? And where can we go inward in that silence and say, what do I need to look at within myself right now? And where can I be more loving to myself, more loving to this crazy, crazy world? And where is my purpose in all of this? And what I like to do is ask the divine, what will you have me do? What will you have me say? How will you have me say it? And who will you have me say it to? And sometimes from that solitude and that stillness, very interesting messages come. And it may be from a higher power, it may be from my higher self. But it is in that stillness and in that solitude and in that quiet that I do feel that I receive the wisdom that is needed. So I wish you all a beautiful week, and remember, love has many, many qualities, and to thine own self be true. Blessings, everyone.